Okay, Papa Bear is back. It's only been a few hours since my last stream, but I have a little bit more time. Again, I only have a little bit of time to stream, but also my voice is feeling refreshed. So we can read a little more poetry. Maybe do ASMR stuff. We had just finished up a series of Emily Dickinson poems about nature. And we are just about to start another series of Emily Dickinson poems under the heading Time and Eternity. That's a very daunting, intimidating subject heading. Time and eternity. I hope the poems will be a little bit less intimidating than the subject. Okay, so I guess we should just dive right in. Give me a moment to clear my throat. I realize something is missing. What am I missing? There it is. Okay, the first poem is untitled. One dignity delays for all, one mitered afternoon. None can avoid this purple, none evade this crown. Coach it ensures and footmen, chamber and state and throng, bells also in the village, as we ride grand along. What dignified attendance, what service when we pause, how loyally at parting their 100 hats they raise. How pomp surpassing ermine, when simple you and I present our meek escutcheon and claim the rank to die. The next poem is called Too Late. Delayed till she had ceased to know. Delayed till in its vest of snow her loving bosom lay, an hour behind the fleeting breath, later by just an hour than death. Oh, lagging yesterday. Could she have guessed that it would be? Could but a crier of the glee have climbed the distant hill? Had not the bliss so slow a pace, who knows but this surrendered face were undefeated still? Oh, if there may departing be, and forgot by victory in her imperial round, show them this meek apparelled thing that could not stop to be a king, doubtful if it be crowned. The next poem is called Astracastra departed to the judgment a mighty afternoon. Great clouds like ushers leaning, creation looking on. The flesh surrendered, cancelled, the bodiless begun. Two worlds like audiences disperse and leave the soul alone. That was Astracastra by Emily Dickinson. The next poem is untitled. Safe in their alabaster chambers, untouched by morning and untouched by noon, sleep the meek members of the resurrection, rafter of satin, roof of stone. Light laughs the breeze in her castle of sunshine, babbles the bee in a stolid ear. Pipe the sweet birds in ignorant cadence. Ah, what sagacity perished here. Grand go the years in the crescent above them. Worlds scoop their arcs and firmaments row. Diadems drop and doges surrender, soundless as dots on a disk of snow. Hello, Moose. Welcome to the Papa Bear Den. We are reading Emily Dickinson this afternoon. Poems on the heavy subject of time and eternity. The next poem is called Nothing at All. It has no title. On this long storm the rainbow rose, on this late morn the sun. The clouds like listless elephants, horizons straggled down. The birds rose smiling in their nests, the gales indeed were done. Alas, how heedless were the eyes on whom the summer shone. The quiet nonchalance of death, no daybreak can bestir. The slow archangel's syllables must awaken her. The next poem is called From the Chrysalis. My cocoon tightens, colors tease, I'm feeling for the air. A dim capacity for wings degrades the dress I wear. A power of butterfly must be the aptitude to fly. Meadows of majesty concedes, and easy sweeps of sky. So I must baffle at the hint, and cipher at the sign, and make much blunder if at last I take the clue divine. Hello, Isanagi, welcome to my stream. Welcome to Papa Bear's Den, I should say. This bear is not shady. Look, I'm in a sunny field. Green grass, waving tree branches, although there is quite a lot of shade, I guess. We are reading poems by Emily Dickinson. This next poem is called Setting Sail. Exultation is the going of an inland soul to sea, past the houses, past the headlands, into deep eternity. Bred as we among the mountains, can the sailor understand the divine intoxication of the first league out from land? There are no mice here, nor lamps. We are out in nature. There might be a field mouse or two that I haven't eaten yet. If I notice one, it won't be long for this world. The next poem is untitled, as many of her poems are. Look back on time with kindly eyes. He doubtless did his best. How softly sinks his trembling sun in human nature's west. That was the entire poem, 4 lines. The next poem, also quite short, and also untitled. A train went through the burial gate. A bird broke forth and sang, and trilled and quivered and shook his throat till all the churchyard rang. And then adjusted his little notes and bowed and sang again. Doubtless he thought it meet of him to say goodbye to men. Are you guys enjoying Emily Dickinson? I'm told she's a good poet. I have a little bear brain, so my opinion is not to be trusted on the matter. But others have said that she's very good. She's not very good with titles, though, because this next poem also has no title. I died for beauty, but was scarce adjusted in the tomb, when one who died for truth was lain in an adjoining room. He questioned softly why I failed. For beauty, I replied, and I for truth, the two are one. We brethren are, he said. And so as kinsmen met a night, we talked between the rooms, until the moss had reached our lips and covered up our names. That's a neat one. Next up we have a poem, shockingly, with a title. This one is called Troubled About Many Things. How many times these low feet staggered, only the soldered mouth can tell. Try, can you stir the awful rivet? Can you lift the hasps of steel? Stroke the cool forehead, hot so often. Lift, if you can, the listless hair. Handle the adamantine fingers. Never a thimble more shall wear. Buzz the dull flies on the chamber window. Brave shines the sun through the freckled pane. Fearless the cobweb swings from the ceiling. Indolent housewife in Daisy's Lane. The next poem is called Real. I like a look of agony because I know it's true. Men do not sham convulsion nor simulate a throe. The eyes glaze once, and that is death, impossible to feign. The beads upon the forehead, by homely anguish strung. Emily Dickinson definitely had a dark side to her. Something black in that soul. Of course, we like that, don't we? The next poem is called The Funeral. That short potential stir that each can make but once. That bustle so illustrious, 'tis almost consequence. Is the éclat of death, O thou unknown renown, that not a beggar would accept, had he the power to spurn. And now we return to untitled poems. I went to thank her, but she slept. Her bed a funneled stone, with nosegays at the head and foot the travelers had thrown. Who went to thank her, but she slept. 'Twas short to cross the sea, to look upon her like alive, but turning back 'twas slow. I've seen a dying eye run round and round a room, in search of something as it seemed, then cloudier become, and then obscure with fog, and then be soldered down, without disclosing what it be. We're blessed to have seen. Papa Bear is sleepy. The next poem is called Refuge. The clouds their backs together laid, the north begun to push. The forests galloped till they fell, the lightning skipped like mice. The thunder crumbled like a stuff. How good to be safe in tombs, where nature's temper cannot reach, nor vengeance ever comes. I never saw a moor, I never saw the sea, yet know I how the heather looks, and what a wave must be. I I never spoke with God, nor visited in heaven. Yet certain am I of this spot, as if the chart were given. That's a poem I recognize. I've heard that one before. It has no title, but I like it. The next poem is called Playmates. God permits industrious angels afternoons to play. I met one, forgot my schoolmates, all for him straightaway. God calls home the angels promptly at the setting sun. I missed mine. How dreary marbles after playing crown. To know just how he suffered would be dear, to know if any human eyes were near, to whom he could entrust his wavering gaze, until it settled firm on paradise. To know if he was patient, part content, was dying as he thought, or different. Was it a pleasant day to die? And did the sunshine face his way? What was his furthest mind, of home or God? Or what the distance say at news that he ceased human nature on such a day? And wishes, had he any? Just his sigh accented had been legible to me. And was he confident until ill fluttered out in everlasting well? And if he spoke, what name was best? What first? What one broke off without the drowsiest? Was he afraid or tranquil? Might he know how consciousness could grow till love that was, and love too blessed to be, meet, and the junction be eternity? A sad poem. The last night that she lived, it was a common night, except the dying, this to us made nature different. We noticed smallest things, things overlooked before. By this great light upon our minds, italicized as 'twere, that others could exist, while she must finish quite, a jealousy for her arose, so nearly infinite. We waited while she passed. It was a narrow time. Too jostled were our souls to speak. At length the notice came. She mentioned and forgot, then lightly as a reed, bent to the water, shivered scarce, consented, and was dead. And we placed the hair and drew the head erect, and then an awful leisure was, our faith to regulate. There's a lot of death in this particular series of poems. The next poem is called The First Lesson. Not in this world to see his face sounds long until I read the place where this is said to be but just the primer to a life, unopened, rare upon the shelf, clasps yet him to me. And yet my primer suits me so, I would not choose a book to know than that be sweeter wise. Might someone else so learned be, and leave me just my ABC, himself could have the skies. I flubbed several lines of that one, but I just carried on confidently, assuming no one will catch me. The bustle in a house, the morning after death, is solemnest of industries enacted upon earth. The sweeping up the heart and putting love away, we shall not want to use again until eternity. Goodness, a very depressing series of poems today. It's not my fault. Emily Dickinson wrote them. Don't blame me. I'm just going in order. I reason. Earth is short, and anguish absolute, and many hurt. But what of that? I reason we could die. The best vitality cannot excel decay. But what of that? I reason that in heaven somehow it will be even, some new equation given. But what of that? Afraid. Of whom am I afraid? Not death, for who is he? The porter of my father's lodge, as much abasheth me. Of life 'twere odd I fear a thing that comprehendeth me, and one or more existences at deity's decree. Of resurrection, is the East afraid to trust the morn with her fastidious forehead, and soon impeach my crown? The next poem is called, and I'm very sorry to say this, because it's sure to be depressing. It is called Dying. The sun kept setting still, no hue of afternoon. Upon the village I perceived, from house to house, 'twas noon. The dusk kept dropping still, no dew upon the grass, but only on my forehead stopped and wandered in my face. My feet kept drowsing still, my fingers were awake. Yet why so little sound myself unto my seeming make? How well I knew the light before, I could not see it now. 'Tis dying I am doing, but I'm not afraid to know. Two swimmers wrestled on the spar until the morning sun, when one turned smiling to the land. O God, the other one. The stray ships passing spied a face upon the waters borne, with eyes in death still begging raised, and hands beseeching thrown. The next poem is called The Chariot. This is a poem that is one of her more famous ones, or at least it's one that I recognize. And I am a stupid bear, so if I recognize it, it must be quite famous. This is called The Chariot. Because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. The carriage held but just ourselves and immortality. We slowly drove, he knew no haste, and I had put away my labor and my leisure too for his civility. We passed the school where children played, their lessons scarcely done. We passed the fields of grazing grain, we passed the setting sun. We paused before a house that seemed a swelling of the ground. The roof was scarcely visible, the cornice but a mound. Since then 'tis centuries, but each feels shorter than the day I first surmised the horses' heads were toward eternity. That was The Chariot by Emily Dickinson. She went as quiet as the dew from a familiar flower. Not like the dew did she return at the accustomed hour. She dropped as softly as a star from out my summer's eve, less skillful than Leverrier, it's sorer to believe. I'm going to take a brief break to hydrate, clear my throat. Okay, I'm back. We're going to keep reading this collection of poems by Emily Dickinson. These are poems on a very weighty subject, the subject of time and eternity. I apologize that Emily Dickinson is such a serious poet. But we'll survive. This next poem is called Resurgam. At last to be identified, at last the lamps upon thy side, the rest of life to see. Past midnight, past the morning star, past sunrise, ah, what leagues there are between our feet and day. The next poem is untitled. Except to heaven she is not, except for angels alone, except to some wide wandering bee, a flower superfluous blown, except for winds provincial, except by butterflies, unnoticed as a single dew that on the acre lies, the smallest housewife in the grass, yet take her from the lawn, and somebody has lost the face that made existence home. Death is a dialogue between the spirit and the dust. Dissolve, says death. The spirit, sir, I have another trust. Death doubts it, argues from the ground. The spirit turns away, just laying off for evidence an overcoat of clay. It was too late for man, but early yet for God. Creation, impotent to help, but prayer remained our side. How excellent the heaven when earth cannot be had. How hospitable then the face of our old neighbor God. The next poem by Emily Dickinson is called Along the Potomac, or as Papa Bear used to pronounce it many years ago, Potomac. When I was small, a woman died. Today, her only boy went up from the Potomac, his face all victory. To look at her, how slowly the seasons must have turned, till bullets clipped an angle, and he passed quickly round. If pride shall be in paradise, I never can decide. Of their imperial conduct, no person testified. But proud in apparition, that woman and her boy pass back and forth before my brain, as ever in the sky. The daisy follows soft the sun, and when his golden walk is done, sits shyly at his feet. He waking finds the flower near. Wherefore, marauder, art thou here? Because, sir, love is sweet. We are the flower, thou the sun. Forgive us, if as days decline we nearer steal to thee, enamored of the parting west, the peace, the flight, the amethyst, night's possibility. The next poem is titled Emancipation. No rack can torture me, my soul's at liberty. Behind this mortal bone there knits a bolder one. You cannot prick with saw, nor rend with scimitar. Two bodies therefore be. Bind one, and one will flee. The eagle of his nest no easier divest and gain the sky than mayest thou, except thyself may be thine enemy. Captivity is consciousness, so's liberty. Next up, we have a poem called Lost. I lost a world the other day. Has anybody found? You'll know it by the row of stars around its forehead bound. A rich man might not notice it, yet to my frugal eye, of more esteem than ducats, oh, find it, sir, for me. I think sometimes Emily Dickinson must have eaten bad mushrooms before writing her poems. It's the only explanation, really. If I shouldn't be alive when the robins come, give the one in red cravat a memorial crumb. If I couldn't thank you being just asleep, you will know I'm trying with my granite lip. Sleep is supposed to be, by souls of sanity, the shutting of the eye. Sleep is the station grand, down which on either hand the hosts of witness stand. Morn is supposed to be, by people of degree, the breaking of the day. Morning has not occurred. That shall ora be, east of eternity. One with the banner gay, one in the red array. That is the break of day. I shall know why when time is over, and I have ceased to wonder why. Christ will explain each separate anguish in the fair schoolroom of the sky. He will tell me what Peter promised, and I, for wonder at his woe, I shall forget the drop of anguish that scalds me now that scalds me now. I never lost as much but twice, and that was in the sod. Twice have I stood a beggar before the door of God. Angels twice descending reimbursed my store. Burglar, banker, father, I am poor once more. Okay, that is the conclusion of the first series of poems by Emily Dickinson. Her poems are divided into 3 series, several parts in each series. So we are roughly 1/3 of the way through the complete works of Emily Dickinson. She has quite a few, and all of them published posthumously. She did not publish a single poem while she was alive. She was not recognized as a poet until after her death. Most of her poems were in letters that she sent to her acquaintances and family. And they were all assembled and published after her death. An interesting story for one of America's most celebrated poets. Her poems are said to define American poetry of that era. And yet, she was not a poet. How very American. Let me check the time. Before I begin on the second series. It looks like I might be okay to read a few. I certainly will not finish the second series. It's much too long for that. But I can read a few. Okay. So the first poem in this series is, I guess, a bit of a dedication. My nosegays are for captives, dim, long, expectant eyes, fingers denied the plucking, patient till paradise. To such, if they should whisper of morning and the moor, they bear no other errand, and I no other prayer. Okay, the first section of this series, just like the first section of the first series, is called Life. And it begins with an untitled poem. I'm nobody. Who are you? Are you nobody too? Then there's a pair of us, don't tell. They'd banish us, you know. How dreary to be somebody. How public like a frog. To tell your name the livelong day. To an admiring bog. That's a good poem for a Twitch streamer with only 17 followers. I'm nobody. For sure. How dreary to be somebody. I bring an unaccustomed wine to lips long parching next to mine, and summon them to drink. Crackling with fever they essay, I turn my brimming eyes away, and come next hour to look. The hands still hug the tardy glass. The lips I would have cooled, alas, are so superfluous cold. I would as soon attempt to warm the bosoms where the frost has lain ages beneath the mold. Some other thirsty there may be, to whom this would have pointed me, had it remained to speak. And so I always bear the cup, if haply mine may be the drop, some pilgrim thirst to slake. If haply any say to me, unto the little, unto me, when I at last awake. The nearest dream recedes, unrealized. The heaven we chase like the June bee before the schoolboy invites the race, stoops to an easy clover, dips, evades, teases, deploys, then to the royal clouds lifts his light pinnace, heedless of the boy, staring bewildered at the mocking sky, homesick for steadfast honey. Ah, the bee flies not that brews that rare variety. We play at paste till qualified for pearl, then drop the paste and deem ourself a fool. The shapes, though, were similar, and our new hands learned gem tactics, practicing sands. I found the phrase to every thought I ever had but one, and that defies me as a hand did try to chalk the sun. To races nurtured in the dark, how would your own begin? Can plays be done in cochineal or noon in Mazarin? I have no idea what any of that means. I am a simple bear. I just like pretty words. Next is a poem called Hope. hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet never, in extremity, it asked a crumb of me. The next poem is called The White Heat. Dare you see a soul at the white heat, then crouch within the door. Red is the fire's common tint, but when the vivid ore has sated flame's conditions, its quivering substance plays without a color but the light of unanointed blaze. Least village boasts its blacksmith, whose anvil's even din stands symbol for the finer forge that soundless tugs within, refining those impatient ores with hammer and with blaze, until the designated light repudiate the forge. The next poem is called Triumphant. Who never lost or unprepared a coronet to find, who never thirsted flagons and cooling tamarind, who never climbed the weary league, can such a foot explore the purple territories on Pizarro's shore. How many legions overcome, the emperor will say, how many colors taken on Revolution Day. How many bullets bearest, the royal scar hast thou, angels right promoted on this soldier's brow. Emily Dickinson has a real talent for being depressing and dark. My throat seems to be giving out a bit here, so I'll read one or two more and then call it a day. This next poem is called The Test. I can wade grief, whole pools of it. I'm used to that. But the least push of joy breaks up my feet, and I tip, drunken. Let no pebble smile, 'twas the new liquor, that was all. Power is only pain stranded through discipline, till weights will hang. Give balm to giants, and they'll wilt like men. Give him Allah, they'll carry him. Okay, one more. It's short. It's called Escape. I never hear the word escape without a quicker blood, a sudden expectation, a flying attitude. I never hear of prisons broad by soldiers battered down, but I tug childish at my bars, only to fail again. Okay. I think think I'll call it there. I have to do my taxes this afternoon. I think my reward when I finish my taxes will be to play some games, do some epic gaming. Anyway, it was very nice to do some epic poetry. Those were all poems by Emily Dickinson. I will be back someday to continue on the complete works of Emily Dickinson. I hope you'll join me. Meanwhile, carry this relaxed feeling with you through your day, or your evening, or your night. Be comfy.